What's going on, MCU fans, and welcome back to another very exciting top 10 list. If you guys are new here, feel free to click that subscribe button and that bell notification icon for more reviews, reactions, rankings, and more movie content. I just got finished doing my yearly MCU marathon of rewatching all the MCU movies, especially during this pandemic, and I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's my favorite movie franchise of all time, and I just love to talk about the MCU in general. And I figured I'd give you guys a top 10 list I haven't done yet, and that is giving you my top 10 underrated MCU characters. Now, there's a lot of different factors that go into this top 10 underrated MCU characters list. These are characters who I feel that don't get talked about enough, don't get the spotlight enough. There's going to be heroes and villains in this list, and this is all my opinion. This is all subjective. This is not the objective most underrated MCU characters of all time. This is just what I think, my own opinions, who I think's underrated in the MCU. Of course, I want you guys to get down below in the comments section. Let me know your underrated MCU characters, your top 10 list overall. Give me your reasons as well. Don't just post your top 10 characters. I want to know why you think those characters are underrated. I have 8 honorable mentions, and I'll just breeze right through them. My first one is Korg from the Thor movies, played by Taika Waititi. Korg first appeared in Thor Ragnarok, and then he popped up a little bit in Avengers Endgame. Piss off, Ghost! Just a really funny character, and I hope to see more of Korg. These group of villains right here I think are very underappreciated and underrated. That is the Black Order from Avengers Infinity War. Of course, you got Ebony Maw, Cole Obsidian, Proxima Midnight, and Corvus Glaive. They were very intimidating presence of just henchmen villains all in particular, especially Ebony Maw, who definitely went out way too early. The reason they're not in the top 10 is because we only saw them in one movie and all of them died. No real development. We just know they're children of Thanos. One of the first characters of the MCU, that is Yinsen from the first Iron Man movie. I really liked Yinsen. Unfortunately, he did die in the first Iron Man, and the first major character to die in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I just really liked him and Tony Stark's chemistry. They had an understanding for one another. They got along really well. They're both family men. And to see Yinsen take his life for Tony in the cave, of course, against the Ten Rings, was just a really underappreciated moment. Lady Sif from Thor, the first one, and Thor the Dark World. I really like Jamie Alexander as Lady Sif. I think she's could have potential to be a really cool, badass, interesting character. Just unfortunately, she did not show up in Thor Ragnarok, and a lot of people were concerned where Lady Sif was. Ulysses Claw, played by Andy Serkis, he first showed up in Avengers Age of Ultron, gets his hand chopped off by Ultron, and you have Andy Serkis playing Ulysses Claw. Just such a great casting choice. Shows up again in Black Panther and added some cool comedic scenes, but he gets killed off by Killmonger. That was one of my issues in Black Panther. I wanted to see more of Ulysses Claw because he was one of my favorite parts of Black Panther. Talos from Captain Marvel. Ben Mendelsohn was one of the huge highlights from Captain Marvel. And you had the Skrulls, which were really cool, interesting characters. And I think Talos was one of the funniest as well as the most layered characters in Captain Marvel. Next is going to be Vision. I really enjoy Vision. Loved his introduction in Avengers Age of Ultron. And he's one of those characters that didn't get enough to do in the MCU with the amount of movies he was in. Obviously, great introduction in Age of Ultron, picking up Thor's hammer. But then we see him show up in Civil War, where he's on Team Iron Man, and has his little love connection with Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch. And there just hasn't been a key defining moment for Vision throughout this whole entire MCU he's been in as the character. So I'm really hoping that WandaVision, the new Disney Plus TV series, really gives us a connection to Vision more. And my last honorable mention is War Machine, Rhodey. Really cool, great introduction in the first Iron Man movie, played by Terrence Howard, who I prefer Terrence Howard over Don Cheadle. Gets recast. He got paid more money than RDJ, and that wasn't going to happen. I do enjoy Don Cheadle as Rhodey War Machine, and he's definitely one of the most underrated out of all the major MCU characters because he's been there the longest, one of the longest for sure, with RDJ. He hasn't really been the man to go out by himself. We did see him get severely injured in Civil War, But other than that, there hasn't been a roadie where he's able to put his life on the line. Those are my 8 honorable mentions. Great, underrated, appreciated characters, just didn't make the top 10 list. Let's get going. Coming in at number 10 is going to be Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. Michael Rooker was a great choice to play Yondu. Very cool character, gets introduced in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. We didn't see enough of Yondu's development in the first Guardians movie, and we see all that development come out in Guardians Volume 2. He was one of the shining parts, where Yondu gets basically betrayed by the Ravagers. He breaks a code, and they don't appreciate Yondu. And now, he puts his life on the line and saves Peter Quill, and you find out he was really Peter Quill's father. He's a very underappreciated character that people don't talk about enough, and I really enjoy Yondu. He's one of the bright spots. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all! These next 2 spots are going to be very underrated MCU villains, and they're both Captain America villains. Coming in at number 9 is going to be Baron Zemo from Captain America Civil War. Very underrated, underappreciated character, which I'm so excited to see Zemo return in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Many people complain, like, was he really pointless to the story? I understand those complaints, but I definitely disagree, because I think Zemo had a motivation. You know, his family was slaughtered in the Sokovia battle, and all he wanted to do was tear the Avengers apart from the inside. The heads. Get inside their heads, get them to tear each other apart, and manipulate the whole system. Brainwash Bucky throughout the entire movie, and Zemo succeeded in his plan mostly in Civil War. And that's one of the highlights of the film. Whenever you have a villain that actually succeeds in their plan, it changes expectations. And I'm so excited to see what Zemo does in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Number 8 is the most underrated MCU villain in my personal opinion, and that is Alexander Pierce from Captain America the Winter Soldier, played by Robert Redford, one of the greatest actors of all time. Robert Redford in an MCU movie, that is just crazy to believe. And Alexander Pierce was such an intimidating villain. What he did behind the shadows, behind the screens, taking Hydra, infiltrating it inside S.H.I.E.L.D. for like 70 plus years and succeeding almost. It's just mind-blowing what this villain does. Everything that Alexander Pierce represents is the definition of evil. I love villains that don't really fight a lot. I love intellectual and just mind-controlling villains. I love villains who manipulate the heroes, and Alexander Pierce is one of those villains. Coming in number 7 is another Captain Marvel character. That's crazy for me to believe. That is Maria Rambeau. Maria Rambeau, played by Lashana Lynch. I'm so excited to see her in No Time to Die. And I think Maria Rambeau might be my favorite character in Captain Marvel after revisiting it. I really like the depth of her character in that movie. She's just this woman who believes in what she believes, and she does everything in her power to get her friend back. And just her mother and daughter relationship with her daughter in the film was really great. And it's a character I wanted to see more from and done better, because this character had some of the best lines in that film. And I was just really impressed with Lashana Lynch as an actress, and that just makes me even more excited to see her in No Time to Die. Coming in number 6 is, I think, the most underrated main MCU hero. That is going to be Ant-Man himself, Scott Lang. Paul Rudd was one of the most brilliant casting choices you can make for Ant-Man. Just when you think Ant-Man, you don't think intimidation. You just think comedic purposes, and I just think Ant-Man is so underappreciated as a character. I love Scott Lang's relationship with his daughter, Cassie. That seriously might be my favorite father-daughter relationship in the whole MCU, even over Tony and Morgan Stark. This guy starts off as a criminal, and he just wants to be a good guy, and he is. And you just root for the guy. You root for Scott Lang, because I just think he's so underappreciated. And Ant-Man throughout Avengers Endgame was so useful. He knows so much about the quantum realm because of Hank Pym, and I just love his relationship as well with Wasp, Hope Van Dyne, and all these characters. Has funny relationships as well with Thor and Rocket and Hulk. Just, I really love Ant-Man, and Ant-Man 3 is coming out. We need more Ant-Man. Before we get to the top 5 underrated MCU characters, if this is your guys' first time checking out the channel and you're enjoying hearing my top 10 list for underrated MCU characters, do me a huge favor, hit that like button. It really helps with the algorithm on my channel. And if you want to see more, consider clicking that subscribe button, because I do tons of top 10 ranking videos, movie reviews, Blu-ray videos, and I also have a podcast called the Fallen for Film Podcast where I dive into all the newest trends in movie news and do tons of movie content on this channel. And the best thing is I do this on a weekly basis. Coming in at number 5 is going to be M'Baku from Black Panther, played by Winston Duke. M'Baku was one of the cool highlights from Black Panther and a very underrated character for sure that people don't talk about enough. M'Baku throws out a lot of funny one-liners, like the vegetarian one-liner joke was really funny. And I just think M'Baku, he hasn't had enough to do, but you gotta put M'Baku in a top 10 list for underrated MCU characters, because nobody really talks enough about him. What a great introduction that character was, and then he shows up again in Infinity War in the Battle of Wakanda, and I would love to see a lot more of M'Baku. We sure will in Black Panther 2, but I just really love this character. Every time I rewatch Black Panther, I always look forward to M'Baku scenes. Coming in at number 4 is going to be a character I love to put a lot higher on the list. My number 4 is Peggy Carter. Now, Peggy Carter is the love interest of Steve Rogers, Captain America, from Captain America, the First Avenger, and so on and so forth. You got Haley Atwell playing Peggy Carter. Very great character. I think super underrated for female superhero characters. What a great introduction she had in First Avenger as the second in command soldier lieutenant. And she puts that one guy in his place, punches him in the face. And then her interactions with skinny Steve Rogers, then he becomes Captain America, and the instant fallen in love connection she has with Steve. Dies in Civil War, then she comes back, of course, in Avengers Endgame, where we have been waiting finally to see Steve and Peggy get the dance we all wanted. I just think Cap had a perfect ending where he goes back in time, lives out his whole life, grows old, and dances with Peggy again. Such a great ending for both of their characters. My number 3 is a character that I always forget to put in my MCU heroes list. This is a character that has been in since the first Avengers movie. That is Maria Hill. Maria Hill was introduced in the first Avengers movie, and Colby Smulders plays her. And Maria Hill has always been the sidekick to Nick Fury. The movie I just love Maria Hill in is Winter Soldier. She actually does play a role in that movie. She gets more involved in the action. And she's one of those characters next to Sharon Carter where she just doesn't get involved enough. She's always on the side. And I really hope to see more of Maria Hill. And she was in Spider-Man Far From Home, but again, we just haven't seen enough of the character. And she's a character I think deserves to be in much more screen time for the upcoming MCU movies, because I do like Colby Smulders. So coming in at number 2 is going to be Hawkeye. Now, Hawkeye had a great introduction in the first Thor movie, where he tries to kill Thor. Really, his appearance was in the first Avengers movie, and Hawkeye didn't have any development at all in the first Avengers movie. And many people forget, oh, Hawkeye's in the Avengers? I didn't care about the character at first, but then you transfer over to Age of Ultron, where you actually give some development to Hawkeye, an actual reason to be a part of the team, where he does have that family, and you start to have that connection towards Clint Barton, what he's fighting for. And that's where I started to resonate more with Hawkeye, and especially trying to, risk his life at the end of Age of Ultron, but Quicksilver goes instead. I just love Ronin Hawkeye. That was just really great. Seeing him taking out all those Yakuza soldiers, just great. Just Hawkeye in Endgame was just fantastic. Jeremy Renner's acting in there was great. And just to see him cry so hard for Nat's death was just like great acting all around. And I think Hawkeye, with his new series coming out on Disney Plus, this would give Hawkeye more of a reason to be existent in the MCU, because he's just one of those characters that hasn't had one of those state-defying moments where we love Hawkeye. My number 1 is Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch played by Elizabeth Olsen. Elizabeth Olsen's one of my celebrity crushes, and I just think Scarlet Witch is such a great character that the biggest reason why she is at number 1 is because this is a really powerful character that she has not gotten a very awesome defining moment. She's had small moments, great introduction in Age of Ultron, her brother is Quicksilver, obviously, and to see the death of her brother and her reaction to that was just one of the most satisfying things I've seen from a new character. And I just thought Elizabeth Olsen, acting-wise, just doesn't get the attention compared to other people. And I just love seeing Scarlet Witch's transition and her actual connection with the other Avengers team, especially with Hawkeye and Vision, of course. Endgame, she almost kills Thanos! And she wasn't the one to do it. Like, she can do it. And of course, she's getting WandaVision series, and we'll see more of Wanda and Vision, their romance, as well as more of the backstory of, you know, Wanda losing her boyfriend Vision, as well as just having these panic attacks. And she's also going to be in Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness. And we're going to get a lot more of Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff. Elizabeth Olsen's great as the character. Want to see more of Scarlet Witch, and she is my most underrated MCU character. There you have it, guys. Those are my top 10 underrated MCU characters in my personal opinion. What are your guys' lists? Let me know down below. I'm sure we're going to have completely different lists and disagree with a lot. Thank you guys, as always, for watching this top 10 list. All my social media links are in the description below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!